Hi everyone, this is Sarah from SRS Designs, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make Anger from the movie Inside Out. He's 3D, he's stuffed, and he does stand up a little bit. It depends on how you get him balanced. For this project you are going to need 412 red bands, 4 gray bands that are in his tie, 86 black bands for his shoes. You'll need 216 white bands and 199 brown bands. This is Loomigurumi, so you will need a hook and a stitch marker. You're also going to need 1 C-clip for this project and a twisty tie or a piece of wire, because we are going to bend it and use it as a needle to sew on these gray stripes of it for his tie. You're also going to need some safety eyes, and for this project I'm using 15mm black and brown safety eyes. So that's what you'll need for this project, and let's get started. I think this is probably going to take us a while, so we want to get started. And first let's make our pieces. We need to make an arm. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with red. It'll be red and white. And the first thing, I'm going to move him off so I have more room. We're going to do is make a magic ring, and we're going to pull through 6 bands. And I like to separate mine out so I can keep track. So we'll take 1 band, we're going to put it on our hook, we're going to wrap it around 2 times. So we have a total of 3 bands, 3 loops on our hook. We're going to pull through a band, put it on the end of our hook, slide that triple wrapped band onto our hook, and put it back on. I'm going to pinch that triple wrap band, and I'm going to make a slip knot, one end through the other on the 2 bands that are on my hook. Now I'm going to hold this band and I'll go back through that triple wrap band, and I'm going to pull through another band. I'm going to continue this process. I'm going to pull it through, back on the hook. I'm going to pull it through itself to make a slip knot, and then to attach those 2 bands I'm going to pull it through again. So from now on, each of the bands that you pull through, you'll be making 2 slip knots, one with itself and one with the previous band. And we have a total of 6 bands. So there we are. Counting to make sure we have got the right number of stitches, and to make sure that we know where we're going to put our hook. Stitch number 1 is on the hook, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So right here is where we're going to put our hook under to start our next row. In our next row, we are going to do 2 rows of 6. So let's start. Pull 1 band through for our first stitch. And now this is where I'm going to put my stitch marker. Slide right through there. So here was where the first stitch was. So here's the second. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we know that we're on track because the next place that we can put our hook is underneath the stitch marker. And that's the first, this will be the first stitch on our next round. We're going to do another row of 6. Pulling our first band through, moving our stitch marker, two, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now we're going to do 2 rows of white. So here's our first stitch. I'm going to pull it through. Now if you want, there is a different way you can change colors. So before we added our color, if you would like to use this other technique, you can. You put your hook underneath where you're making your first stitch, and when you pull your first color through, instead of making a slip knot, instead of making a single crochet, you're going to pull it through and make a slip knot, and this becomes your first stitch. And it does give it a little bit of a cleaner transition. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 right here. So we're ready to start our next row, and it goes underneath where our stitch marker was. When you use that transition band that's a slip knot when you're changing colors, there is another little triangle here that looks like a stitch, but you're going underneath where your stitch marker was. And we're going to add 6. So this is our first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and our last stitch is 6. And then we're going to put our stitch underneath the hook, our hook underneath the stitch marker, and we're going to make a slip knot there. Now, you're also going to need some stuffing for this project, which I didn't mention before. And it also will be handy if you have another hook or something that you can access through this project. So now we need to make his little thumb. So we're going to do that in red. So we're going to take one band, and we're going to put it on our hook, we're going to wrap it around one time, and then we're going to grab both of those and wrap it around again. So we have a quadruple wrap band, 4 band loops. We're going to pull through 2 bands, and we're going to pull through 2 bands. So you put them on your hook and wrap them around one time, and we're going to pull that one band on to that quadruple. Wrap band is going to be pulled onto those 2 bands like that. We're going to take one more band, we're going to put it on, wrap it around, we're going to double it, and we're going to pull that on back on our hook. And then we're going to finish it by pulling one band through, and this is the band that we will attach our thumb with. So the shape is symmetrical, so you can just pick where you'd like the thumb, and I want it to be in the middle of the red. So I'm going to place it like this. I'm going to stick my hook on the inside. I'm going to grab one end of that red single band, the last band we did, making sure that I'm skipping a band right here so I can tie it on the inside. I'm going to pull this other band through. So I've got these 2 bands here on the inside, and I'm just going to make a slip knot. And that is going to keep our thumb secure. And now we need to stuff it a tiny bit. You don't have to, but I like the way it looked stuffed, so we are going to stuff it. And really you only need just the tiniest bit of stuffing, and it can be kind of hard to get in. So I actually like the flat end of this little rainbow loom hook, one without the base plate remover. And I would sort of wrap the stuffing around it and then try to push it inside, because it does get a bit hard. You get it going in there and then stuff in it. You don't want to push it in too much or have too much stuffing, because then you'll get some gaps. So that is his little thumb. So you need to pause the video and make a second thumb. A second hand, because he's going to need 2 hands, 2 arms. So go ahead and pause the video now and make your second one, and then I'll meet you back. Now we need to make his eyes, and we are going to be making a white spot that the eye will go into. And to do that, we're going to make a magic ring of 6. Lots of magic rings in this project. And I explained it slowly on the first part of the video, so now I'm going to go a little bit faster. So we're taking a band, wrapping it around 3 times, and we're going to pull through 6 bands, so that's our first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Here's our last. We've got 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to put my hook under the first stitch, like we're going to start another round. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull through 1 band here. So that's 1. Like we were doing another round around, but instead of just 1, we're going to do an increase. So I'm going to put a second stitch, pull a second stitch through. So there's 2 stitches, an increase. And I'm going to do an increase in the next one also. So I'm going to do 1, and then same spot for a second stitch. And I'm going to move over to the 3rd stitch, and I'm going to pull 2 through that also. 1 and 2. Just like that. I'm going to put my hook in the next available stitch, and I'm going to make a slip knot. Just like that. And I'm not going to do anything with this little extra bit because we're going to use that to attach the eye on. So those are our 2 eyes. So you're going to want to pause the video and make your second eye. Now we're going to make his mouth. So to do that, we're going to chain 5. That's putting 1 band on your hook, wrapping around, so there's 2 loops. And then we're going to pull through 4 bands, making a chain. So here's our first 1. Oops. 2. So this is 3. 1, 2, 3. 4. And 5. So now we have a chain of 5 bands. What we're going to do is we are going to take our hook and we're going to put it, the stitch that's on our hook is kind of our working stitch. It gives us some ability to move. So we're going to put it in the first stitch that's available from the hook. And we're going to do 2 single crochets in this 1 stitch. And we're doing not the slip knot method, but we're doing the other method where we're using 2 bands for each stitch. So I'm going to pull a band through and put it on my hook. Now here's the turning chain that we use, the one that lets us work and gives us space. And here's the first stitch I pulled through. Now we're going to take a band and we're going to pull it through everything on our hook. And we're going to go back into the middle of the same stitch, and we're going to repeat that. We're going to pull 1 band through and put it on our hook, and then we're going to pull 1 band through again, just like that. In the next chain, which is right here, put our hook through. Instead of doing a stitch, we're going to do a slip knot so we can try to get that dip in the mouth. So we're going to pull it through that chain and then through what is on our hook and back on our hook. Actually, we're not doing, it wasn't a slip knot, it was a slip stitch. And now we have 2 stitches left. In the next stitch, we're just going to do a single crochet. So we're going to take 1 band, we're going to pull it through, back on our hook, 1 band, and pull it through everything. And now this cap band is our last stitch, our last available chain that we can make our stitches in. So I'm going to put my hook in, and we're actually going to make 3 single crochets in this chain, in this stitch. So here's our first band, pulling it through everything, going back in the same exact spot, 1 band pulled through, 1 band pulled through everything, and we're going back in the same spot again, 1 band pulled through, 1 band pulled through everything. So that's going to give us our mouth. It's actually supposed to be up like this. So then here I'm going to make a slip knot with that last one, And there is our mouth, and we're just going to put this off to the side. Our next little bit that we need to make, because we're making all of our pieces in the beginning, is his tie. And we're going to start his tie with a chain of 2. So we're going to take a band, we're going to put it on our hook, and we're going to pull another band through that. So now we have a chain of 2. Get on there. Now we're going to put 2 single crochets in the one available stitch that we have, which is here. So we're going to pull a band through, back on our hook, and then a band through everything. And we're going to do it again, putting in, pull a band through, and then a band through everything. So this is the top of his tie. We're going to chain 1, and now we're going to turn our hook around so we can go back in this other direction. So here's our working chain. Here's 1, and here's 2 places where we can do stitches. 1, 2. So we are going to put a single crochet in the first stitch. So here is 1 band through, 1 through everything, and we're going to move over to the second available spot. And in this spot, we're going to put 2 stitches. So here's our first 1 band, 1 through everything, going back to the same original spot, pulling 1 band through, and then 1 band through everything. And we're getting this triangle shape like a tie. And now we're going to chain 1. And we're going to turn our hook around so we can go back in the other direction. So here are our 3 available stitches that we could be sewing in. 1, 2, 3. But what we're going to do is, instead of going into this stitch, we're going to skip and we're going to go into the middle spot and we're going to make a single crochet. Trying to get the point at the end of the tie. Just like that. And then I'm going to make a slip knot. And that is going to give us, I'm going to stretch it a little bit out. That's going to give us our little tie. So I'm going to hide this band up. I'm going to pull it through the back, weaving it through. Just like that. So there is his tie, and we want to add some gray stripes to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a twisty tie, and what you can actually do with a twisty tie is take out this little piece of wire that's on the inside just by pulling on the paper. Now I find this works best with the ones with the paper. You can also bend a paper clip, that way if you don't have one of these. And I actually brought my scissors because I think, let's try this. I'm going to cut it right up against the wire. Now, I haven't tried this with any of the kind that have the plastic on them because they're just not available where I live. We only have these green twisty ties at the one store I usually shop at. So I'm just going to peel it off and use it as a needle to sew the gray on. So. And there it is. So what you're going to do is you're going to take 4 gray bands and we're going to knot them together. So we're going to take 1 band over the top and we're going to pull it through, making a knot, and we're going to pull it tight. I'm going to take another band. I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to lay my band on top. I'm going to push through the one that's in my right hand, grab it and pull through. On top, push it and grab it and pull through. So now I have a length of gray thread. And here is his tie. And what we're going to do on the back, so here's your front of the tie and here's the back. The back is where I've hidden my the band I used to end it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to go underneath 2 of these bands here, and I'm going to anchor this gray band so I can start sewing. It's almost like making a knot in sewing. So I'm just going to pull it through, and then I'm going to pull one end through the other, just like this, so then it makes a knot in the back. And then I'm going to take my bent in half little twisty tie, and I'm going to put the gray band right through it. So now it's like I have a little piece of fabric and a little needle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew zigzag lines. So this really is trial and error. You're going to, whatever way you can make it look like lines. So I'm just going to go up here through some bands, and I'm going to pull it gently, so I don't want to stretch it out. And I'm going to go across to this side. And just keep your 2 pieces of wire together, which I didn't do right there, and it wouldn't pull through, so you can tell. And then I made like a little stitch, and on his tie, so that goes across like that, and then I want it to go across again, so I'm going to stick it up over here, pulling it, and I'm going to make it go over to the other side, just like that. And then I want to make another little stitch, so I'm going to grab my end here, I'm going to poke it up, and I'm going to pull it through on this side. And that gives us our little tiny design on the tie. Zigzag back and forth. So I'm going to take my little fake needle out, and this is what you're going to need your C-clip for. I'm going to secure this gray band, and I'm going to secure it under a couple of the back bands, and I'm going to grab that the red band that we did as the holding band that we tied the bottom of the tie off of. I'm going to do those 2. So it'll be on the back and we won't even see it. And there's our tie. Just like that. So that's another piece done. We are getting there. Now we're going to make the top piece, because actually what we're going to do is we're going to build him from the bottom up, and we're going to attach all of his pieces, and then we're going to attach a flat top piece, and that this piece is a rectangle, and it is going to, we're going to sew it on the outside so that we get this nice edge for the top of his head. So we're going to make the top piece first, just to get it out of the way. So let's start with a magic ring of 6. Band on, wrap it around 3 times, and we're going to pull through. There's a mad dog hair everywhere. Here's our one. So this is our first stitch, our magic ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back in for 6. Back to the beginning. So we have our magic ring of 6. Now we're going to start our next row. We're going to be going up to 14 stitches. We're going to start with a single crochet. Here's our single crochet, and this is where we're going to put our stitch marker. Now we're making a rectangle. So in our next stitch, instead of doing a increase, which is 2 bands in 1 stitch, we're actually going to do a triple. We're going to pull 3 bands through 1 spot, and this is going to help us make our corners. So that's 1, going back in the same spot, 2, going back in the same spot, 3. So we did 1 single and then a triple. We're moving over to our next available spot, we're going to do a triple again. 3 bands. 1, 2, and 3. Moving over to our next space, we're going to put a single crochet in. This is going to widen. 2 of the sides have single crochets. That's going to give us, instead of a square, it's going to give us a rectangle. We've got 2 spots left in this row, and in both of those 2 spots we're going to do a triple crochet. So that's 1, back in the same spot, 2, again for the 3rd. Moving to the last available stitch, we're going to put 3. 1, 2, and 3. And now we're back to our beginning. So you can almost kind of see our square shape coming. It's our rectangle shape coming. It's a little bit hard to tell in the beginning. Our next row, we're going to start with 2 single crochets. So here's our first. Here's 1, moving that stitch marker. Here's our second. 2, so 2 single crochets. Now we're going to do a triple increase. So 3, 1, back in the same spot, 2, back in the same spot, 3. Then we're going to do 2 single crochets in the next 2 stitches. So 1 crochet, moving over another crochet. And our next available space, we're going to do a triple increase. 1, 2, and then our 3rd, 3. Moving over, we're going to do 3 single crochets. So here is a 1. Move over to the next spot, 2. Move over to the next spot, and that gives us 3. In our next available stitch, we're going to do a triple increase. 3 stitches in 1 spot. 1, same spot. Oops. Okay, this is 2 in that same spot, and then 3 in the same spot. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to do 2 single crochets in the next 2 stitches. So here's 1, move over to the next spot, and 2. Then we're going to do another triple crochet. 1, same spot, 2, and same spot again for 3, and then we're going to end the row. There's 1 stitch left with a single. 1. So now you should be seeing that rectangle shape. These sides are a little bit longer than these 2 sides. We're going to do 1 more row. Hook back in where our stitch marker was. We're starting with 2 single crochets. Here's our first, and we're going to move our stitch marker. Here's our second. Now we're going to do a triple increase. 3 stitches. 1, same spot, 2, same spot for 3. Then we're going to do 4 single crochets as we go along this side. 4 singles. 1, move to the next spot, 2, move to the next spot, 3, to the next spot, 4. Let's move our hook and put our stitch in the next one. Need some more bands. These are Rainbow Loom bands, Rainbow Loom brand bands, but I feel like they're almost just like a tiny bit thicker, wider than the other bands. They're kind of throwing me off. So we did 4 singles, and now we're going to do a triple increase again. So here's 1, back in the same spot, 2, back in the same spot again for our 3rd. 1, 2, 3. This is the 3rd. Moving to the next, we're going to do 5 single crochets across. 1, move our stitch to the next spot. 2, to the next. 3, 4, and 5. 5 single crochets. Now we're at the end, our next spot, end of this side. We're going to do a triple. So that's 1, triple increase, same spot. 2, same spot, and 3. Now we're going to do 4 single crochets across the top. 1, move over to the next spot. 2, move over. 3, move over, and 4. And our next spot here, we're going to do a triple increase. 3 stitches, 1 spot. 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to end our row with 3 single crochets. 1, move over to the next spot. 2, and 3. And there we are. We're going to go underneath our stitch marker, and we're just going to end it with a slip stitch. Little slip knot right there. And this is going to be the top of Anger's head. Take our stitch marker out, and we're going to put him off to the side. The next part we're going to work on are his shoes and the bottom part of his legs. So we're going to start with black, and we're going to make a magic ring of 6 stitches. So taking one band, wrapping it around 3 times, and we're going to pull through 6. So here's our first band. Slip knot it back in the center. You want to make sure you get through all 3 of those bands. 1, 2, 3. So we're going to make another slip knot. So that's 2, back in, 3, 4, 5, and our last is 6. Hook back, and then the first stitch on the next row. For our next row, we're going to be putting 2 bands in each, so we're doing an increase. So here's our first, and this is where we're going to want to put our stitch marker. In the same exact spot, we're going to put our second. Moving over to the next for stitches number 3 and 4. Next one is 5 and 6. Our next one is 7 and 8. Nine and 10. And then 11 and 12. And that puts us back at the end of the row. 12 stitches. Next place we can put our hook is under our stitch marker. In our next row, so this is the bottom of a shoe, and we want to change the direction of our stitches. So to do that, for this entire next row, we're going to be going in the front loop only. There are 2 loops when we are doing Loomigurumi crocheting that we go under. So there's a front loop here and then a back loop. The back loop is where my stitch marker is. We're just going to go through the front loop, and we're going to do a row of 12 in that front loop. So here's 1. And my only suggestion for doing front and back loops is to go very slowly, because the bands are a little bit looser when you're doing this stitch, and sometimes if you're not careful they end up slipping off. So we're just doing the front loop. See how kind of it's loose here? It'll look fine when we keep going. It's just that as we're doing this stitch, it's a little loose. And that was just in our front loop only. Now we're back to the beginning here. In our next row, we're going to do another row of black, 12 stitches all around. So here's one, moving that stitch marker. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 11, and here's our last stitch, 12. Okay, back at the beginning. There we are, that's the bottom of it. Now we're gonna switch to brown for the pant part. And we're gonna be doing two different things in this one row. The first thing that we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be increasing from 12 to 18. We're going to do that. In our first stitch, we will put 1. In our second, we will put 2. And we will repeat that pattern all the way around. Also, we are going to flare out the leg a little bit. So to do that, we are going to put our stitches in the back loop. That's the one with my stitch marker is on. Before we did the front loop, now we're doing the back loop. So here is my first stitch, and I'm changing color, so I'm just going to join them with a slip knot. I'm going to put my hook in here because this is our first, and then we're going to go back loop only, and we're going to put in 2 because we're doing the increase. So there's 1 and 2. Back loop on the next is a 1 stitch, and then the back loop on the next is our increase, so that's 2. Back loop on the next is 1 stitch, and then our next is 2. 1 and 2. 1, and the next, we're just repeating this pattern, 1, 2, 1, 2, all the way around. So here's 1. And then we need to go back in for 2. Here's 1. The next is 2. 1, back loop only, 2. And last pattern, here's our single, 1, back loop only for 2. 1 and 2. Now where we need to put our hook is under our stitch marker. Not right here where we changed colors and attached, it's underneath our stitch marker. We're going to do 2 rows of 18 stitches around in the brown. So here we start. Slip knot, we're going through both because we're doing just a regular crochet, so we're going through both. So there's both of those little bands. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and our last stitch here is 18. And we're gonna do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and our last stitch here is 18. And we're done with this row. I'm going to put my stitch marker here on the last stitch, just like that. So here is our little leggy, the bottom part. So what you're going to do is pause it and make a second one so that we can continue. You are going to need 2 legs, otherwise he'll look a little funny. So go ahead and pause it. It is good if you have an extra stitch marker, that might help. So go ahead, pause it, and then we'll continue when you have your second leg made. All right, so now that we've got your 2 legs, we need to get them attached to his body. I had 2 pages of notes for this project. And we are going to attach them together like this using slipped stitches. And we're going to attach 4 bands, 4 stitches together here. So I can see his legs stay together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start one above my last stitch here and one above my last stitch here. I'm going to put my hook through. I'm going to take a band and I'm going to pull it through and I'm going to make a slip knot. Just like that. For my next stitch, I am going to put my loose empty stitch, my loose stitch, it's not empty, where my stitch marker is, I'm going to put that on my hook. And then I'm going to go through the hook, the band that my stitch marker is holding on the opposite side. So I have the 2 end points that would be able to come apart on my hook, along with the band from the previous slip knot. And I'm going to make a slip knot on these 3 stitches, just like that. I'm going to move down the line and I'm going to grab the next 2 stitches here and I'm going to make a slip knot just like that. I'm going to pull it through all 3. This one I ended up pulling a little too tight, I think. Let's loosen that. and then I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to go through 2 across, just like that. Pull through. I'll make a slip knot. So we're adding this one. Oops. That one's too tight. I think it'll be fine right there. So we're going to make a slip knot. So we're going through those 2, through what was on my hook, back on, and a slip knot. So now my legs are attached. And I want to make sure, because we're gonna do stitches all around and build up on it, we need to have 29 stitches because we're gonna be doing 29 the rest of the rows. So here we're gonna count our stitches. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go around and count and make sure I've got 29. If you did 4 stitches across here and both of these are 18, you should be good, but let's double check it. This stitch right here is very close in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. So I have an extra stitch here. So when I start, I'm actually going to start right here, and I'm going to skip this tight end stitch right here. This one that I said was tight that I counted on, I'm going to skip that one when I work on my project, when I go on my next step. Hold on a second, I'm distracted because there's a bug crawling on my table. Well, I didn't get the bug, he crawled away, but hopefully he won't come back. So making sure that you've got 29 stitches all around, and you can adjust it. I think if we're skipping this stitch right here, it'll be fine. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start a whole nother row, and we're going to do 29. So I'm going to pull one band through and start with a slip knot. This is going to be my number 1 stitch, and I'm going to put a stitch marker on, and I'm just going to count to make sure. So here is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oops, that one was broken. So this was 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We're going to go here is 14. Going across the front. So that was 14. So I just want to count to make sure we're going to be able to end up in the same spot. So let's see. 1, 2, so 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. And I'm going to be right there for my 29. So that'll be perfect. So this should be it'll be 15, right? 15. If you have a lot of extra stitches and you're trying to get it down, if for some reason you can always stitch together 5 in the middle, and that will take the amount of stitches around the side down if you stitch the middle closer. But all of our other rows as we are going up until we almost reach the top are going to be 29. So you're going to want to make sure that you're around, that you are 29. Otherwise your count is going to be off. But if you're following what I did, you should be fine. You'll be perfect. This is our last two here, and I said 29 was going to be right there, which is going to put me back under here for my next stitch. Yeah. So I'm just going to count, make sure that I'm right where I want to be. You know, there's never too many counting in crafts, because you would want to count and get it right rather than having to take it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Happy. All right. Now we're going to do 2 more rows of brown all the way around, 29 stitches. So here's one, and that's bringing that together there. So it's one. I move my stitch marker. So go ahead and do 2 rows and I'll meet you back. All right, now you should have completed 2 more rows of brown, and this is what our bottom part will look like. And now we're going to switch gears to white as we're moving up his outfit. The next color is white on his shirt. So we are going to do 29 stitches all around in white. So we're just going to do a row all the way around, and I'm going to do the color change with a slip knot. So I'm going to pull my new color through the first stitch, and what's on my hook, back on, slip knot. And I'm going to put my stitch marker on the top part of it. We're just going to go around 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 7, 28, and 29. Back to where we started under the stitch marker. Now for this row, we are going to do front loops only. So we're going to put it in the front and pull your stitch through. So that's one. Move in our stitch marker. Oops, that was back loops. Front loops only. And this is going to give us a little texture and show like make a collar on him. And we're just going in those front loops. And we're going to do that all the way around. I'm not going to count. It's 29. That's a lot of counting for me. Front loops only. Sometimes the front loops only are. So I was curious, I try really hard not to grab more than one band at a time when I'm working on a video, but when I am usually looming, I grab like a little handful of them and hold them. And I try not to do that because I sort of feel like it's going to be blocking and, you know, making the image a little bit harder to see. So I was curious if what other people do when they loom. Do you pick up one band at a time and just do it, or do you put a bunch of them? When I first started doing Loomigurumi, it was over Christmas break, I was sliding a bunch of them up on my finger like this, and just grabbing them and putting them up on my finger, using my band to roll them out. And then I was just grabbing them off my finger like that, because it was already stretching them and it was easy to loop them. And that's how my daughter has been doing it. She's loading her finger up with like 1,000 bands. And if you were counting, say, oh, I need to do 7 stitches, you could just count out 7 bands, put them on your finger, and then, oops, what's that? Nope, that's just a stretched out band there. Try to use fresh bands in my tutorials, but sometimes some of the ones I've used for previous projects that I've taken apart have gotten in. So we're just going all the way around, front loop only. And here we are at the end of the row. Okay, our next row is just going to be a straight up row around of 29. Here's our first, moving that stitch marker. And then we're just going around regular, 29 stitches. The summertime, it's definitely making it harder to find the time to design things and film things. It's night now. I like doing it during the day because you get better lights. But once my kids are in bed, I can try to film. But I notice that I just get tired after playing with them all day. They're 7 and 9. And doing stuff with them all day, that it's hard to film at night. But my son really wants to be in a video. So I think we are going to try to film one together over the weekend. I've got a special item that I designed for him, that I made for him. And I think that he wanted to be in this video, but he has long been in bed. He was really excited that I was going to do it tonight, because I make a sample and then I make a second one. I've got 2 kids, so each get one. And they were wanting in anger. So this is just a regular row all around. 29 wonderful stitches. Okay, back at the beginning. And for this next row, we are going to do back loop only. So we're There's 2. We're going in the back. And we're going to go all the way around. Where we live, it's typically very hot in the summer. Well, we haven't had that much super hot weather. And I think next week, which will be late July, will be the first time we're going to hit 100 degrees, which my kids are happy about because for the last couple years, I always take them out to get snow cones on the first day it hits 100. I figure 100 is pretty hot. So we're gonna go do that. So they were watching the weather going, oh, is it gonna be 100? When's it gonna be 100? Since it hasn't been very hot, we, or I mean, it was like 90, but you know, that's hot, but not insanely hot like we're used to. So this morning we went geocaching. Yeah, if you know what that is, it's kind of like treasure hunting where you use a GPS system to find caches that people have hidden. And sometimes they just have a little piece of paper that you sign inside. And sometimes they have little trinkets and stuff you can take. We often put rainbow loom bands inside. And I really love to do it. And I can do it for hours. I love hunting around. And my kids usually, they end up getting tired of it. So I planned out about 6 places that we could check out this morning. All in our neighborhood, or you know, not that far from our house. And the first one we found really easy was in a parking lot, and the second one we found rather quickly in our local neighborhood park. And then the kids played on the playground for a while, and then they were done. They didn't want to do any more. And I said, well, we've got some more, let's go check. So we got in the car and we drove to the next one, and my daughter, she just sat in the car and read. She didn't want to look. And we didn't end up finding it. It was too hard. And then, okay. So now we're here at the end. We did a back loop only row. And now we're going back to the beginning. And we're going to do a row, just a regular row, all the way around in white. So here's our first. So we had found 2, and then one was a bust, and there was another one that was just right around the corner that I had tried to find one other time. So we went to look, and of course my daughter stayed in the car. My son came with me, but it was so overgrown, there was no way that we were gonna find it. So I said, okay, well, we'll just do one more. It was a little bit further away. But both kids were fussing that they were thirsty, so mostly my son, so we just ended up coming home. But we had some success. But I love geocaching. We've been doing it for a couple of years, and it's great if you're someplace new and you know, whenever we go anywhere, I'm always checking. I have an app on my phone that it's kind of expensive. It was like $8, but it's nice to be able to use the app. And if I'm in a new city, I'll just check it out and see if there's anything within walking distance or anything that looks close by that we can do. We've done them on vacations or when we're visiting family. We don't really need that much white because we're almost done. This is our last white row, and then we'll be moving on to red. We're getting there, we're getting there. Hopefully it won't take us too long to sew on the little bits. He does have a lot of body parts we need to sew on. Attach. I was gonna try to make some flames going out of the top of his head, but I wanted to get this out, and it was done. without the flames. So you are welcome to add some flames to the top. All right, so that was our row around. White is done. We're going to be switching back to red. We're going to do some red rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You need to do 5 red rows, and they're just going to be regular rows the way that we've done them. We're not doing any loops or anything. So this is our first row. I'm going to pause the video and you pause it and you make 5 red rows, and then when you come back we'll only have 3 more rows to do on the top of his head because we need to make his little angry forehead. So go ahead, we'll pause it and I'll meet you back when we're done. Welcome back. You should have finished those 5 rows. So here's where we are. Now at this point we are going to be putting in the middle of his eyes a little bump to make his like angry frown. And it's possible that you did not start your rows in the same place that I did. So you may not be right here, meaning that you might be over here. So if I say make 7 stitches and then do an increase, it'll be back here when you really need it in the middle. So what we're gonna do for these next couple of rounds is we're gonna fudge it. I'm gonna tell you what you need to do, and then you're gonna go ahead and do it based on what you need. Okay, so first you're gonna determine which is you like better. Is this the front or is this the front? And for me, I've got this white band that's poking out right, like where we did the transition, and it's very noticeable. So I am going to do my middle. I'm going to do my front right here on this side. And I have an extra stitch marker, and if you have one, that will be good. So we want his frown in the middle of his forehead. So I'm going to go up right here, and I'm going to put my stitch marker on this band right here. So what we're going to do for this row is you are going to do single crochets until you get to the middle of your front. And this one stitch right here, and I'm going to keep my marker in it the whole time, you're going to do an increase. So you're going to put 2 stitches in here, and then you're going to do singles all the way around to the beginning. Okay, so singles till you get to your middle part, your middle point. Right here you put in 2, and then you go singles all the way around. I had realized afterwards that if you didn't start exactly in the same spot on your back when we were doing the legs, that if it might be off a little tiny bit. So I want to make sure I'm not giving you the exact counts of how many stitches you need to do, but just make sure you do single crochets until the stitch marker. So here's my singles. I'm at my stitch marker, so I'm going to put 2 in this spot. Oops. So here we have 1 and 2. And then I'm going to finish my row out with singles. This is the part where my project gets so big it's in the way. Goodness. I feel like now we're in the home stretch. So there's only 2 more rows after this, and then all the attaching stuff. So we should be done soon. I know Loomigurumi takes so much longer than your regular bracelets or figures. Try to keep mine somewhat small because it does use a lot of bands. All right, so now we're back at the beginning of my row. So here is what it looks like. So in the stitch where I have my stitch marker, I've got 2 stitches right in there. So now when we go around, we're going to go around until we get to these 2 stitches. And in these 2 stitches, we're going to put triple increases. So here and here. So I'm going to move my stitch marker to right here. This is the first of the 2. And I'm going to do single crochets all the way around to this point. I'm going to put 3 bands in this stitch, 3 bands in the next stitch, and then keep going to the rest of the round. And that's going to help us give him his little furrowed brow. So we're just doing single crochets until we get to that point. I hope that you're not too confused. It probably would have been more confusing if yours didn't look exactly like mine and I was telling you to do 7 rows or 7 stitches and yours wasn't matching up. So here I am at the first spot. I'm going to put my triple increase. So that was 1 stitch. I'm going to put 2 more in this one spot. And I'm going to move over, I'm going to put 3 stitches in there, next one. So putting in so many stitches in one spot is going to give me a bump. And in our next row, we're going to decrease over it. And that will pull it in. And make it smaller so that we can attach our top. So now we're just going to finish up this row. I've been getting lots of requests for the other characters from this movie, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do any more or not. It does take a lot of time, and with my kids being home, it's kind of taken me, it took me a good week to do this one. Whereas I can normally, when they're, when I have time, if they're at school, to do things a little bit faster than that. Who knows? They're at camp for a week in August. Maybe I'll find that extra time. Rushing that last stitch. I was getting so excited to be almost done with the round. Alright, here we are back at the beginning. So this is what we look like now. So you can see these, there's the 1 increase, that's the triple, and there's the next increase, that's the triple. And what we're going to do is we're going to do 3 decreases on top of this. So that's 2, 2, and 2. So I want you to look at these stitches and see where you can do your decreases. Decreases are 2 stitches together. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. So I'm going to move my stitch marker up to the beginning of the 6, because we're going to decrease these. So this is going to be 1 decrease, That's going to be another decrease, and that's going to be the third decrease. So we're going to do singles, do those decreases, and then end in singles. And that's the our last row. We're actually, all we have to do is the attaching after this. So I had 6 stitches until I got to that stitch marker. And now I'm going to do the decrease. So I'm going to grab the next stitch, I'm going to put it on my hook. And I'm going to grab the next one, and I'm going to pull one band through both of those stitches. And I'm going to go over to the next 2, and I'm going to grab them. I'm going to pull one band through. And then I'm going to go to the next 2 stitches, and I'm just going to repeat that process. So now if we look at it, we've got this bump that sticks out. And that's going to be his angry forehead. Twisted band. Okay, so now let's just finish the row with the singles. Based on my counting, we should be at 31 stitches. Because we were at 29, we went up to 30, we went up to 34, and then we did 3 decreases, so that brought us down to 31. And our top piece that we're going to put his flat head top is 30 stitches, so we are going to have to just do a 1 decrease, I think, as we're attaching it to make sure that we're got it nice and solidly tight. All right, almost there, almost there. Stitch was trying to trick me. Okay, so here we are back at the middle, at the end. I'm sorry, at the middle, at the end. I'm gonna put my hook under where the first stitch is on that first round, and I'm just gonna make a slip knot. And I'm gonna remove my stitch markers because we don't need them anymore. Now we need to do pieces. So let's start with arms. You've got your 2 arms, and we've got, this was the band we tied off on, and I'm going to add another band across the side here, just directly across. I'm going to do a slip knot. As if you've done any of my tutorials where we've added things, I am a fan of tying things on with a knot. So I'm going to find my Mr. Angry, go right here in the middle of his arm, and I'm going to pull through this long band on the inside of my project, flipping it over to the other side, pull this band through, and then I'm just going to take the 2 of them and I'm going to tie them in a knot. If you're using rainbow loom bands, tying in a knot seems to work well. I have noticed that if you're using a different type of band, that sometimes they pop off. So there is his thumb pointed up. And we're going to do the same thing on our other. So I'm just going to go right across. I'm going to add in a band with a little slip knot. Put it on the side here. Positioning it the way I want with the thumb up. And I'm just going to pull it inside. Let's see. Oh, that didn't work. Position. I was trying not to do it like almost upside down. which is how it's ending up. Okay, there's that one. And then on this side, I want it to be here. Just gonna grab these two and make a knot. 1, 2. There we go. So there are his hands. Oh, there it is. I was like, ah, I did it wrong. Okay, the next part I want to do is the eyes. So we're going to get your 2 white round pieces. And you're going to need your safety eyes. You can make a lump of black and brown bands and pull those through the middle to make the eyes if you want. So here is the magic, oh, sorry. Here's the magic ring. And we are not going to put our eye through the magic ring. We are going to put it over here on the side. Just right there. So the magic ring sits off center. Just like that. So there's a larger space on this side. And I'm going to take the other eye and I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to put it right through the stitch here so it's off center from the magic ring. Just like that. And then I'm going to put them right in between where his brow is. His angry brow. His Lewis Black angriness. Just like that. You get them positioned where you want them, right in between that bump. And then we're going to put the little safety backs on. Just like that. Okay. Yeah. So now we have this piece hanging here. So we want to go ahead and pull that inside. We're going to use it to secure this side, just like that. I'm going to pull this one in also. Just like that. Pull them to the inside. And I'm going to drag it through to secure it on this side. I'm going to drag it through some bands on the back. And then I'm going to drag it through. So I've dragged it through 1 set, 2 sets, and then when it's small like this, and there's a little loop left, I'm just going to secure it with a slip knot band. It'll all be inside and no one will see it. Just like that. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one. And I'm kind of dragging it in the opposite direction from where the eye is, like this toward the inside. That way it stays nice and taut. So I'm going to grab these 2 bands, pull it under, grab it through some more, pull it under, and then when I see how it's close, it's small, I'm going to grab it one more time and I'm going to secure it. If I had done this slip knot when it was very long, it would have just gone loose. So there's his eyes. Urgh, he says. Okay, let's do his mouth. Here's our mouth, and this is the flat side of the chain on the bottom, and this is the top. And on this side, where I'm going to put a slip knot through it to attach it, just like that. And we want it right above his shirt, right here. He doesn't have a nose really. So I'm just going to take this, so I'm going to pull it to the inside. Just like that. And then this one I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to pull it to the inside. Just like that. So I have these 2 bands on the inside, and I'm going to secure them the same way I did, which is pulling them under the loops, under 2 sets of loops. So here's my first. I'm going to pull it under a second set of loops. And then on my 3rd set of loops, I'll do a little slip knot. And I have not had any problems with the bands popping out afterwards. Like these little tie-off bands, they all stay inside, and I've never had a problem with that. So there's one side secure. Let's do the other side. So grabbing that band, pulling it through, tight but not too tight. We're gonna do it again. Pull it through. And then on our last one, I'm gonna pull it through and make a slip knot. There we go. There's his angry mouth. You can just play with it. All right, we're gonna put his tie on. So here is his tie, and it goes right in the middle, right here. So I'm gonna line it up where I want it. I'm gonna stick my hook up and grab this band. I'm gonna pull a band through, just like that. Put it back on my hook and get it through here. So now we've got, yes, we have lots of bands on the inside. Actually, I'm gonna do this. This will make it easier. I'm gonna do a slip knot right there at the top of his tie. I'm gonna pull it through with the slip knot. Just like that. So there's this tie. Pulling it through with a slip knot, and I'm gonna secure it the same way. Dragging it underneath all of these bands. I want to make sure it doesn't pop out the other side, since there are those front loops, back loop rows, like that. There we go. Ugh, so perfect. I love them. Okay, so now we're gonna need to stuff him. So you want to get some stuffing, and the first thing that I'm going to do is take small little pieces, and I'm gonna stuff it way down into his legs and into his feet, so that I get, if you put just globs of stuffing in, you won't get the definition of the legs and the feet, and you're gonna want that. So just like that. Let's get some more stuffing. I'm finally at the end of my pillow. I've been using one pillow for all of my stuffed projects, even before I made my own things. Okay, a little bit too much. There we go. There he is. All right, so now we're gonna sew his top on. All right, now we're ready for our final step, and that is to sew on his top. And this might look like it's gonna be a little crazy, but don't worry, it won't be that bad. I'm stuffing the stuffing down as far as I can, and he's looking very fat and squat. So what we're gonna do is, it's a rectangle, our top piece, as you can see. So this side is longer than this side. So this is the front, and these are the sides, because his front and back are longer. So we want to line it up just like this. And I'm gonna start kind of in the middle and work my way around. And I did it on this one, and you can't really tell that I ended. If you look really closely, you can see I ended it in the front, but you can't really, you won't be able to tell. And it'll be a little bit easier to keep track of things. So here is the middle, and then here is his middle. So what we're going to be stitching together, because we need to make it flat. So on Anger, go find the middle, which is right here, and you're going to be going in. Now when we made him, we did it this way, so we're going to be going on the inside loop. And on our flat piece for the top, we're going to be going on the outside loop. So I'm going to grab this one here. And then when we sew them together, it's going to give us a flat shape. So the outside, so we're going on the inside of the bottom and the lower band on the top. So we're going to pull a band through, we're going to do a slip knot. We're going to move over to the second spot, doing the inside here and then the inside here. And we're going to do a slip knot. We're going to be doing a slip stitch all the way around. So we're going to go to the next. So we're grabbing the inside and then the inside. So it's the two bottoms. And this is going to give us that square shape. Oops, come on guys. Don't lose me now, we're so close. So just make sure you're lining up those two. And once we get around back, what we're going to do is we're going to take a break and we're going to count to make sure we're going to be able to line up. So the inside loop here, the bottom loop here, and then a slip stitch. Keep going. When this part is done, we are done. So it is the home stretch, slip stitch. We are going to do a decrease in the back because I know we do have an extra stitch. Get down there, guy. All right. So far, so good. I'm just gonna sew all the way around. When I do, I know I'm gonna need at least one decrease, and I want to do it in the back. So I'm gonna go a little bit further before I stop. Don't pull that too tight, otherwise you'll get... Okay, I'm going to put a stitch marker on here just to hold it, to make sure we don't lose it. And I'm going to go to the other side, and I want to make sure that we're going to be on track here. So I'm just going to line it up and count. So this is where we started. So here's 1 stitch there, and that's 2, and that's 3. This is going to be 4, and that will be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Actually, I don't think I'm going to have to. I think I'm going to be good. All right. If you need to decrease when you count around and you've got extra on the back of the head, just go ahead. And when you're attaching it, grab one and then grab the next and decrease it. But it looked like mine was going to be okay. if you're worried about the stitching, let's do this. If you're worried about it, let's go ahead and end here. And then we can start on this side. All right, we'll start back over here. So here's our next stitch. And that way you won't even have to worry about having an extra stitch, because they'll be in the back. So we just do slip knot stitches, attaching them together. Oh, that was a much better idea. So grab those two. It's a little tedious work, but we are almost there, and I think it'll really be worth it. In the end, it gives the nice, like this square top. I tried some other techniques getting the square top, and I didn't like it. I like the way this looked. All right. There we are. Almost there, almost there. Home stretch always feels so good. And here is the last two. And then we're just going to pull those loose stitches in. So there we go. That was it. I don't mind having a couple extra stitches in the back hanging out. Let's pull them inside. Oh, that's caught in the stuffing. That's the only bad part. Sometimes you do get caught in the stuffing. Let's get this one. Goodness gracious, you do not want to cooperate with me today, do you? You see, I've got too many bands here. There it is. And there's that. And there he is. Oh my gosh, can you believe we're done? So you just want to square it up a little bit, just like that. And I'm gonna squish him because I really had packed that stuff down. So there he is. It's Anger from Inside Out. I love it. So here he is, all done. Can you believe it? We squared him up a little bit and got him ready to go because I had stuffed my stuffing down really, really far. So I'm just pulling it out and getting him so he has the square edges because he is angular in the movie. If you like this video, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. That way you can find out right away when I have new designs that are uploaded onto YouTube. It would also be, I would absolutely love to see any of the designs that you've made. You can post them on Instagram and tag me at SRS Designs, or you can post them on my Facebook. You can look for me, SRS Designs. So I hope you enjoyed making this. I definitely did. I'm really happy with the way it came out. I think it looks super adorable. And I hope that you'll enjoy it too. Take care and keep looming.